Hey everyone, hope you're having a great day. You're listening to the RX Daily Dose. Today's episode is being recorded for Tuesday, August 31st, and I'm your host, Ian Parnagoni. We update this podcast for healthcare providers, medical professionals, and anyone who has an interest in drug updates. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms and social media, including iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram. All links can be found in the show notes below. In today's episode, we have a few updates to discuss with everyone, and first, probably the biggest news everyone heard about is the official approval of the BioNTech COVID vaccine just this past week. We'll also talk through a new EUA for COVID vaccines in certain individuals and approval of Welireg for adults with von Hippel-Lindau disease. As always, feel free to skip around. I'm going to include times in the show notes so you get the drugs that interest you. So first up this week, the FDA approved the first COVID-19 vaccine. The vaccine has been known as the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine and will now be marketed as brand name Comirnaty for the prevention of COVID-19 disease in individuals 16 years of age and older. The vaccine also continues to be available under emergency use authorization, including for individuals 12 through 15 years of age, and for administration of a third dose in certain immunocompromised individuals, which we'll talk about in a moment. Since December 11th, 2020, the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine has been available under EUA in individuals 16 years of age and older, and the authorization was expanded to include those 12 through 15 years of age on May 10th, 2021. EUAs can be used by the FDA during public health emergencies to provide access to medical products that may be effective in preventing, diagnosing, or treating a disease, provided that the FDA determines that the known and potential benefits of a product when used to prevent, diagnose, or treat the disease outweigh the known and potential risks of the product. FDA-approved vaccines undergo the agency's standard process for reviewing the quality, safety, and effectiveness of medical products. For all vaccines, the FDA evaluates data and information included in the manufacturer's submission of a biologics license application. A BLA is a comprehensive document that is submitted to the agency providing very specific requirements. For Comirnaty, the BLA builds on the extensive data and information previously submitted that supported the EUA, such as preclinical and clinical data and information, as well as details of the manufacturing process, vaccine testing results to ensure vaccine quality, and inspections of the sites where the vaccine is made. The agency conducts its own analyses of the information in the BLA to make sure the vaccine is safe and effective and meets the FDA's standards for approval. Comirnaty contains messenger RNA, a kind of genetic material. The mRNA is used by the body to make a mimic of one of the proteins in the virus that causes COVID-19. The result of a person receiving this vaccine is that their immune system will ultimately react defensively to the virus that causes COVID-19. The mRNA in Comirnaty is only present in the body for a short time and is not incorporated into, nor does it alter an individual's genetic material. Comirnaty has the same formulation as the EUA vaccine and is administered as a series of 2 doses 3 weeks apart. The first EUA, issued December 11th for the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine for individuals 16 years of age and older, was based on safety and effectiveness data from a randomized, controlled, blinded, ongoing clinical trial of thousands of individuals. To support the FDA's approval decision, the FDA reviewed updated data from the clinical trial which supported the EUA and included a longer duration of follow-up in a larger clinical trial population. Specifically, in the FDA's review for approval, The agency analyzed effectiveness data from approximately 20,000 vaccine and 20,000 placebo recipients aged 16 and older who did not have evidence of the COVID-19 virus infection within a week of receiving the second dose. The safety of Comirnaty was evaluated in approximately 22,000 people who received the vaccine and 22,000 people who received a placebo 16 years of age and older. Based on results from the clinical trial, the vaccine was 91% effective in preventing COVID-19 disease. More than half of the clinical trial participants were followed for safety outcomes for at least 4 months after the second dose. Overall, approximately 12,000 recipients have been followed for at least 6 months. The most commonly reported side effects by those clinical trial participants who received Comirnaty were pain, redness, and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle or joint pain, chills, and fever. The vaccine is effective in preventing COVID-19 and potential serious outcomes, including hospitalization and death. Additionally, the FDA conducted an evaluation of the post-authorization safety surveillance data pertaining to myocarditis and pericarditis following administration of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, and has determined that the data demonstrated increased risks, particularly within the 7 days following the second dose. The observed risk is higher among males under 40 years of age compared to females and older males. The observed risk is highest in males 12 through 17 years of age. Available data from short-term follow-ups suggests that most individuals have had resolution of symptoms. Information is not yet available about potential long-term health outcomes. The FDA and Centers of Disease Control and Prevention have monitoring systems in place to ensure that any safety concerns continue to be identified and evaluated in a timely manner. In addition, the FDA is requiring the company to conduct post-marketing studies to assess the risks of myocarditis and pericarditis following vaccination with Comirnaty. These studies will include an evaluation of long-term outcomes among individuals who develop myocarditis following vaccination with Comirnaty. In addition, although not FDA required, the company has committed to additional post-marketing safety studies, including conducting a pregnancy registry study to evaluate pregnancy and infant outcomes after receipt of Comirnaty during pregnancy. The FDA granted this application priority review, and the approval was granted to BioNTech Manufacturing. The FDA also amended the emergency use authorizations for both the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine and the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine to allow for the use of an additional dose in certain immunocompromised individuals, specifically solid organ transplant recipients or those who are diagnosed with conditions that are considered to have an equivalent level of immunocompromise. People who are immunocompromised in a manner similar to those who have undergone solid organ transplant have a reduced ability to fight infections and other diseases, and they are especially vulnerable to infections, including COVID-19. The FDA evaluated information on the use of a third dose of the Pfizer, BioNTech, or Moderna vaccines in these individuals and determined that the administration of a third vaccine dose may increase protection in this population. These patients should be counseled to maintain physical precautions to help prevent COVID-19. In addition, close contacts of immunocompromised persons should get vaccinated, as appropriate for their health status, to provide increased protection to their loved ones. The Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine is currently authorized for emergency use in individuals ages 12 and older, and the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine is authorized for emergency use in individuals ages 18 and older. Both vaccines are administered as a series of 2 shots. The Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine is administered 3 weeks apart, and the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine is administered 1 month apart. The authorizations for these vaccines have been amended to allow for an additional or third dose to be administered at least 28 days following the 2-dose regimen of the same vaccine to individuals who have undergone solid organ transplantation or who are diagnosed with conditions that are considered to have an equivalent level of immune compromise. And finally this week, the FDA approved belzutifan, which goes by brand name Welireg, a hypoxia-inducible factor inhibitor for adult patients with von Hippel-Lindau disease, commonly known as VHL, who require therapy for associated renal cell carcinoma, central nervous system hemangioblastomas, or pancreatic neuroendocrine tumors not requiring immediate surgery. Welireg was investigated in the ongoing Study 004, an open-label clinical trial in 61 patients with VHL-associated renal cell carcinoma, diagnosed based on a VHL germline alteration and with at least one measurable solid tumor localized to the kidney. Enrolled patients had other VHL-associated tumors, including CNS hemangioblastomas and pancreatic neuroendocrine tumors. Patients received Welireg 120 milligrams once daily until disease progression or unacceptable toxicity. The primary endpoint was overall response rate measured by radiology assessment as assessed by an independent review committee using RECIST version 1.1. Additional efficacy endpoints included duration of response and time to response. An overall response rate of 49% was reported in patients with VHL-associated renal cell carcinoma. All patients with VHL-RCC with a response were followed for a minimum of 18 months from the start of treatment. The median duration of response was not reached. 56% of responders had a duration of response greater than 12 months and a median time to response of 8 months. In patients with other VHL-associated non-renal cell carcinoma tumors, 24 patients with measurable CNS hemangioblastomas had an overall response rate of 63%, and 12 patients with measurable pancreatic neuroendocrine tumors had an overall response rate of 83%. Median duration of response was not reached, with 73% and 50% of patients having response durations greater than 12 months for CNS hemangioblastomas and pancreatic neuroendocrine tumors, respectively. The most common adverse reactions, including lab abnormalities, included decreased hemoglobin, anemia, fatigue, increased creatinine, headache, dizziness, increased glucose, and nausea. Anemia and hypoxia from Welireg use can be severe. In Study 004, anemia occurred in 90% of patients, and 7% had grade 3 anemia. Patients should be transfused as clinically indicated. The use of erythropoiesis-stimulating agents for treatment of anemia is not recommended in patients treated with Welireg. In Study 004, hypoxia occurred in 1.6% of patients. Welireg can render some hormonal contraceptives ineffective, and Welireg exposure during pregnancy can cause embryo-fetal harm. The recommended Welireg dose is 120 milligrams administered orally once daily with or without food. And that's all I have for right now. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll include all links in the show notes below, so please go back and check those out too. Please connect with me on any of your social media platforms and give me feedback on what you heard today. I'd love to know what you thought about the episode. And as always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And thank you so much for tuning in. Stay safe out there, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.